This is Lucy James, reading for reviewer Alex Goy. In Gran Turismo 7, the latest entry in the PlayStation's top flight race series, perfection isn't only famed producer Kazunori Yamauchi's aim, it swiftly becomes yours. It's been a quarter of a century since the real driving simulator that got petrol heads obsessed with lap times on the PS1 released, and it hasn't evolved massively. For better and for worse, it's strangely familiar, but it plays as close to driving a real car as you can get on a console and draws you in with challenges, physics, and luscious visuals. Gran Turismo's goal to be the best-looking driving sim out there hasn't been dropped. There are two display modes to choose from, Scapes mode and frame rate mode. On a PS5 connected to a 4K TV with ray tracing enabled, Scapes mode becomes a visual treat for snap-happy players and fans of custom creations. Everything looks smooth enough that you'll want to run your fingers across the glistening paint jobs. However, when you're racing, you'll want to have frame rate mode switched on. This keeps the game at a steady 60 frames per second, but does lose some visual flair. How much you'll care about that may be limited, as when you're racing, you'll likely only have eyes for the car in front, not how accurate the reflection of the advertisements you're blitzing past is on the hood. Even without ray tracing, the hyper-detailed in-car view shows bits of the dashboard reflected in the windshield, drawing your eye. It can be a bit distracting, but that's how real cars work. Gran Turismo 7's 420+ car models are staggering. Not a switch out of place, nor an incorrect line to my experienced eyes. If you're into staring at cars, you really can't go wrong sniffing around Brand Central, the in-game location where you buy the majority of GT7's cars. It's here you'll notice something a bit strange though. While each model is impressive, many are a little on the old side. The Tesla Model S, for example, is the original pre-facelift car. Why have that when there's a fresh-faced plaid model on sale now? How come the most up-to-date road-going McLaren you can buy in the game, the 650S, went out of production half a decade ago? The cars that are there look incredible, but the vast majority are out of date. Some of the older cars are there for good reason. A classic Mustang is always a great time and belongs in Gran Turismo for the sake of being awesome. And saving credits to afford a legendary Aston Martin is an achievement to be celebrated, so it's not all "dude, where's my car?" GT7 has a charming story mode of sorts, the Cafe. It's here players will be steadily introduced to all the joys the game has to offer via Luca, the cafe's friendly owner. He provides you with menu books that set specific challenges, which unlock tracks, features, or cars to bolster your collection and collector level, which in turn increases as you collect cars and gains you more rewards. Unless the challenge is to go to a specific place, like the amusingly named Understeer tuning shop to fettle your car, or GT Auto for a new wing, chances are you'll find yourself in a race to win a car of some sort. In an attempt to humanize Gran Turismo, Polyphony's given Luca a cast of friends. Sarah guides you around the GT world, acting as something of a proxy. Car designers will appear at the cafe to tell you all about how great your car is. GT World Tour racers act as instructors on licensed tests, adding smiles to what used to be a fairly robotic process. They're all represented as faces in discs with text underneath. Unfortunately, the scripts they deliver go from a bit clunky to "I can smell the cheese from here." Players will amass the kind of car collection a millionaire would be proud of fairly quickly, but places to drive those cars can take a while longer to roll out because there are fewer tracks than cars. However, this ultimately is not a bad thing. The tracks take a while to learn anyway. Because of this, you never feel rushed to pick up too many things too quickly, though you don't get to spend too much time with your motors before moving on to the next set. Sometimes you'll be rewarded with a roulette ticket. These seem like a neat idea, but the promise of a shiny new car or a huge stack of credits seemed, in my case at least, to be a little more than dangled carrots to hook you, the actual prizes won being low value. Races go the usual Gran Turismo way. You start at the back and fight your way to the front. Racers have a recommended PP, or performance point, rating to let you know how competitive your car needs to be. By sending whichever car you've chosen to race to understeer and buying choice toys, you can comically overpower your ride and pick off most of the field on the first lap. Like GT games of old, the pack at the rear is easy to take. A small gap leads you to another set. After another gap, you'll encounter the front runners, before having a mildly troubling fight for first. Why Gran Turismo insists on starting you at the back of the pack for each race is baffling. But for a one-off race, it's understandable for the occasional championships where you win or place highly in a previous race. That aside, the racing is still fun. AI competitors drive defensively and occasionally make mistakes. Each race does feel similar and occasionally rubber bandy, but there's enough challenge in there to make you return for more. License tests are back and are addictive, albeit occasionally frustrating little tasks that teach you the game's physics model. The way Gran Turismo handles is, as you'd hope after a quarter of a century of refinement, bang on. Barrel into corners with the throttle wide open and you'll understeer, lift off mid-corner and the rear will swing round. Depending on how many of the game's myriad modifications from understeer or GT Auto you've applied, it'll behave differently, but within the rules of GT7's physics. The same goes for inclement conditions. Not all circuits can have dynamic weather, but those that can are a different, broader kind of fun to play on. You'll first find your super slick race tyres, an expensive investment but a good way to up performance points fast, are now useless. You'll then either learn how to control a slide at speed or where the retry button is. The track will dry eventually, your palms, maybe not. Night driving's a blast, as are the astronomically accurate starscapes that keep the sky bright. While racing and collecting are the main focus, you'd be a fool to miss out on missions. These include a variety of different driving challenges, such as slipstreaming for speed, drag racing, or overtaking challenging opponents in a short slot of track. Like license tests, they can be frustrating, but you'll keep coming back for more. Similarly, the music rally function is a neat distraction from the main game. Drive quick enough to music so you don't run out of beats. You start with a set amount of beats that decrease with each, beat of the song you're listening to. Drive quick enough and you'll pick more up via gates on the track. Run out and it's game over, finish the whole song and you've won. Not a reason to buy it outright, but entertaining if you want something different. There's still no obvious damage to cars though. Yamauchi and the Polyphony team want racing clean, so cars don't need to get damaged, but it's 2022. If I have a prang, the game should know about it. Considering the level of detail that's gone into the rest of the game, it seems like something of a cop-out to not have any evidence of a crash, even cosmetic. Another thing that hasn't leapt to the next gen is the sound. 3D audio tech means you can hear more, but what you hear isn't edge of your seat thrilling. There are plenty of places to race in GT7, some based on real locations, some exclusive to the game. With 90 layouts and over 34 tracks to earn and explore, you shouldn't find yourself bored. Each track comes with its own challenges, not only in layout but in environmental changes as well. While you'll be concentrating on a race, it's a lot more exciting when the sun's out and the rain's at bay, as having more grip tends to make winning races easier. At the time of review, GT7's online mode, casual, ranked, or the meeting spaces, wasn't available, but if Polyphony's carrying over the GT Sport system, we've little to worry about. All your GT Sport data will be transferred, though sadly not your garage. As with GT Sport, you need to have a constant internet connection for most of the game to work and save. This, says Polyphony, is to curb cheating. Still, we'll sink some time into the online modes and update this review to reflect our experiences. Gran Turismo 7 isn't a departure, but rather a newer, shinier GT game. Its physics model is accurate, and while the racing can be formulaic, it's always a giggle. The attempt at humanity is a little bit cringy, the lack of up-to-date cars seems like an open goal missed, and the game may not have changed drastically, but that's not the worst thing in the world. There are medals to claim, cars to collect, and people on the internet to embarrass around Goodwood, the Ring, or well, anywhere really. PlayStation petrol heads are in for a good time.